With me right here is Charlie Gregg and Neil Prouse, our lead geo at NAC. We had a beautiful hole. We had over 900 meters of 0.5% copper equivalent, huge tenor of copper, over 70% copper in this hole. Neil, tell us about this hole.
Yeah, so this was a very good hole. We collared about 190 meters to the west of probably our best hole from 2022, NAC 2204, which was a vertically oriented hole that encountered some pretty decent mineralization off the top. And then after about 350 meters, really strong disseminated and vein and veinlet hosted chalcopyrite and bornite mineralization. Now, unfortunately, that hole, due to hole conditions, was abandoned at 550 meters. And so this season, we really wanted to go back, drill under that hole, but step out and expand it in the east-west direction as well. So that's what we did. And actually, the pattern of mineralization in this hole was very, very similar to the pattern of mineralization we saw in hole 4. We hit a very, very well mineralized dike from 80 to about 120 meters near the top of this hole that hosted abundant disseminated bornite and chalcopyrite. And then after that, mineralization was a bit more intermittent. Still numerous nice veins of chalcopyrite. But then, yeah, very similar to hole 4 from last year, at about 351 meters, we intersected mineralized conglomerate, which has so far proven to be one of the better hosts for mineralization at NAC. We see bornite and chalcopyrite mineralization somewhat selectively replacing phenocrysts within the actual clasts and in the intrusive fraction of clasts in the conglomerate, and elsewhere taking on mineralization within the matrix and sort of enveloping clasts. So very interesting style of mineralization. And then to add to the tenor of mineralization, we see these very shallow angled core axis veins of bornite and chalcopyrite throughout this hole. When we couple that with the veining we saw in hole 4, which is on the same east-west plane, we also saw a lot of very shallow angle veins. And so it's giving us a good indication that we have these east-west trending vein sets, likely or potentially radiating out from the main porphyry stock intrusion. So yeah, vertically oriented, east-west trending, at least in this location. And that's, yeah, really bringing the grade up. So it's very good to see this consistent mineralization. So from 351 meters down to a depth where we ended the hole at 929, we were still in mineralization, but we had to call it to move on. We have elsewhere to test. Yeah, we had what it worked out to be 500, almost 550 meters of approximately 0.6% copper equivalent. And
Wow.
that's 0.441% copper, just copper. So yeah, there's still a really good gold kick. There's still a pretty good silver kick in this, which is interesting. But the copper is really picked up, and that's kind of the story we see, this transition between the south zone, which is a bit more gold rich, and we get up to the north along this trend, the copper starts to dominate, but still seeing a pretty decent gold grade as well. I think it's 0.15 gold over that length. So yeah, nothing to sniff at.
So just drawing a bit of a chevron from the collar of 12, the tail of 11, back to the collar of 9, you got 420 meters north-south and 1.1 kilometers west to east. Like Charlie always says, are we lucky, Neil, or is not great?
Well, I mean, I think we're lucky that we get to explore the NAC property. It's probably the best way to put it. We keep hitting mineralization over very broad lengths and over not insignificant step out distances. So yeah, is it coincidence we keep hitting mineralization? I think probably not. Yeah, we're seeing a lot of good indications that we're onto a pretty large scale system here.
We still open to the north. We're open to the east.
Yeah, I mean, we're exploring and expanding the known mineralization right now. There's a very large zone of yet untested ground between our south zone, where we drilled hole 10, hole 8, hole 11, and off to the southeast, where we drilled hole 9. It's all within a very similar geophysical signature and in a very similar geological position. And hole 9 showed that we have strongly anomalous copper and gold mineralization. Yeah, so it's very open to expansion.
Charlie, you've been pretty quiet on this call. What are your thoughts? Are you excited? I see the smirk on your face every day. Tell us about what your thoughts are.
Yeah, I'm constantly smirking for sure. No, it's awesome. I mean, the NAC system is big. It's also somewhat complex, but we keep hitting lots of things. I think, I would like to have just nailed, okay, these are the controls and we can just follow this. So that to me is a little bit frustrating as a geo. However, what we are seeing now is, okay, these dikes, like at the top of hole 12, carry, excellent grade. So there's one control. Do we know exactly which way those are going? Not really. Do we really know if they're through going dikes? I think to some degree, but not always. They may be more irregular shaped features. So that's one control. That's pretty obvious. The other one, as Neil mentioned, is this conglomerate, which is an excellent host, particularly to the chalcopyrite, maybe lesser bornite. So that one is another element of control that geologists would really like to understand. Like, what are the controls on where the best mineralization are? And we keep seeing those now. So, we know those are there. Do we understand what their geometries of those different things are and where they might intersect? We're getting a better handle on that, but I don't think we're there quite yet, which to me is exciting, but also frustrating. So, fantastic when we are able to nail those things together. Yeah, look out. I think that's where we'll really be able to knock it out of the park. And then we'd want to drill maybe on tighter spacings there and just expand those zones which have the potential to really control a nice continuous high grade within this cloud of a very large cloud of good mineralization, but maybe not, golden triangle grades. But I think we have that potential still on the property, and it's there's a lot of space down there that we're testing with these deep holes, and we really only have, well, we're on hole 17, I guess, but we really only have a small number of holes for a huge space down there, and we're continuously hitting. So yeah, I love it, but I'm also, as a geo, a little bit frustrated by it. So it's kind of a good thing, but also tests one's patience, I guess.
Well, complex is good, and complex means the potential to be really big, which is what the majors really want. And you talked about the Golden Triangle, Charlie. But I tell you one thing they don't have near the Golden Triangle. That's a Japanese restaurant and a brewery, which speaks to the infrastructure that we have in Smithers. And we're getting pretty darn close to the Golden Triangle tenor. But we're in like God's country. You can drive a pickup truck right to our drill holes, so we have that advantage. So I'm
Yeah,
loving
and
it.
you can do that year round too. So that's huge. You're right. It is huge.
So Neil, what's next?
Yeah, well, we're currently drilling hole 17, which is directly analogous actually to hole 12 to the south zone. So we're collaring further to the west of the main drilling in 2023 and drilling back towards the east, cutting obliquely across the drill fence. It'll give us a better handle on the orientation of some of these dikes and a better handle on the geometry of the mineralized zone. And then very hopefully intersecting the main Babine porphyry stock granodiorite that seems to be at least dictating the orientation of a lot of the mineralized zones here. So it'll give us a really good handle on a geological cross section, and already this hole is proving to be quite valuable. We're seeing bedding within the sedimentary rocks. We're noting bedding changes. We see some clear evidence of some folding. and we see a really nice continuous package of this mineralized conglomerate again. So yeah, still gaining some good understanding. We've got a lot of results still yet to come from holes 13 and 14, which drilled from the east to the west in the north zone, very similar to what holes 8, 10, and 11 did in the south zone. 13 extending a fair ways to the south, and then 16, which was drilled a bit north of the south zone, beginning to define some continuity between the south zone and the north zone. So yeah, so this season it looks like we have hole 17 left, and next season we've got a lot to test. We've got a broad space in between the north and the south zone to really flesh this area out, and then I think a very exciting area of focus is to work our way to the southeast as well towards hole 9. So yeah, once we get all the data back and can properly put together a model, and we'll have a, I think we'll have enough data to get something pretty testable together for next season. And yeah, that's, I think, where it's all really going to come together.
You got me excited. So, yeah, something that I meant to mention that I didn't is that gap between the north and the south zone. So we know we've got these two areas of excellent mineralization, somewhat different styles. We also have recently done some IP lines across there, and it shows continuity in the geophysical features, I guess you'd call them, between the north and the south zone. In particular, kind of a combination of resistivity and chargeability, where it seems like we get a lot of the better grades. And that structure, if you want to call it a structure, those features, show good continuity between the north and the south zone. And we haven't really tested that well. So that, gives me a lot of excitement. Yeah, our hole 3 that's in there, that didn't really test those features well. So that's sort of really the only deep hole in between, the hole 3 from last year. So, I'm very excited to just systematically test that quote unquote gap between the north and south zones. And I think we're going to be seeing more goodies in there. Quite confident in that. We just have to have the cojones to go ahead and do that. I think that's safe to use that word. Is that not right?
I think it's fine, Charlie. With you guys at the helm, I have every faith in you. Big ore bodies, hanging with big ore bodies, and guess what? Like smart geos that found the most recent big discovery that turned into a liquidity event. Best chance to create the next liquidity event. And just to bring into layman's terms what Neil was talking about, if you look at hole 17, you see hole 8, hole 10, hole 11. They're coming from east to west, across and down. We have no testing to the west at surface. So hole 17's scissoring across to see what that mineralization is. To see it's not just a triangle, it's a giant rectangle. We're very confident we'll create a whole mineralization there, whole mineralization package. We realize it's a tough market. Our job is to turn our haystack as small as possible. And we're doing that by having great surface mineralization at depth, high grade, scale. We're turning everything together here. We're very confident in our team. We have the infrastructure. We have the geologists. We communicate to the investors right now. And we just let the good work do the talking, let the rocks do the talking. I'm not going to speak for the geos, but I believe this will be a mine someday. We just want to, have as little shares outstanding as possible. So stay tuned. A lot of news to come. We have news all the way through the end of December. Thank you very much, Neil and Charlie, for this interview.